You're very familiar with our friend Jim Jordan. He's chairman of the House Judiciary Committee. Jim, you are seeking a document related to the Mar-a-Lago investigation. Could you tell us what's going on?
Yeah, we want the scope memo, Mark. Thanks for having us on. In simple terms, there's an order given when there's a special counsel form. You know this. The order lays out a sort of a broader scope of what the investigation is. But then there's a memo typically. Not always, but, well, we think always. It's been our experience. There's a memorandum that actually gives more detail about what, in fact, the special counsel is supposed to focus on, what are the parameters of that investigation. If you remember, Mr. Rosenstein issued a scope memorandum about 3 months after the initial order that gave a lot of context to what they were doing. That was not released until 2020, even though it was issued, that memorandum was sent in August of 2017. So we want to know that plus any other communications surrounding Jack Smith and the special counsel, because it looks like, based on what the press is saying, Mark, that he's going to indict the former president and maybe more importantly, the guy who's leading in every single poll in the 2024 presidential race. It looks like they're going to indict him, potential obstruction charges, and we'd like to know kind of what's going on and how this investigation proceeded.
Is it amazing how little they will reveal to the American people through Congress, whether it is information related to the Bidens? And how can they justify not appointing a special counsel to investigate Joe Biden and all these shell corporations and the laptop and all the rest that specifically finger him? And yet, when it comes to Donald Trump, they appoint a special counsel in a way that you're not supposed to. That is, special counsel for the American people. You appoint a special counsel because of a potential conflict of interest within the government. Within the government. So that the appointment would be made for Biden. It would not be made for Trump. They're trying to give the appearance of independence here, aren't they? Even though the special counsel reports to the Attorney General.
Yeah, when they announced this, if I remember right, they announced the formation of Jack Smith and the special counsel after 7 months ago when this was happening, and then shortly thereafter they announced one for Joe Biden. So I think it's for appearances, but it's very real when you have these news reports saying that the special counsel is going to indict the former president. And here's the other thing that bothers me: this double standard. This document that Chairman Comer, that we're trying to get made public for the American people to see, I mean, this is a document the FBI prepared. They created this document based on what a credible source, who they had worked for 10 years, who they paid hundreds of thousands of dollars, information that source told the FBI. They create this 1023 document that says our source told us Joe Biden had conversations with a foreign national about money for certain actions that he would take. That's what Mr. Comer, who's seen the document, has said that's what it involves. And how much you want to bet this confidential human source, Mark, how much you want to bet he's a lot more credible than Christopher Steele was, who put together the dossier that they used to spy on a presidential campaign? I would bet my house this source is better than Christopher Steele, and the document, that 1023, is better than that dossier, which they used 2 days after they got it. According to the Durham report, they used 2 days after they got it to put in a draft FISA application without substantiating anything, any of the allegations in that. They didn't validate one ever, and they used it to spy on a presidential campaign.
Well, Mr. Chairman, there's more reason than ever to release it, because we have a Washington Post piece from last night where Jamie Raskin is revealing information, spinning, where we're told that Bill Barr saw the information and he didn't care, so he sat on it. Now it creates more questions than answers. And now there's leaks out of the Department of Justice or the FBI about the document. So now they're telling us what's in the document from a radical left perspective. And there's more reason now why people like me, who communicate with 14.5 million people, should have this information so we can discuss what's in the document, rather than just like Russia collusion, where people are leaking information to the Washington Post and not providing public information, right?
No, you're exactly right. The American people have a right to see this stuff. That's what this in the end is about. It's about we, the people. And if this was a 1023 from a confidential human source who was credible, who had been paid hundreds of thousands of dollars by the American taxpayer through our FBI, and it was about Trump, CNN would already have a copy of it. Everyone knows that. But no, it's about Biden, so we can't see it. Only the chairman in the camera can view this document. That's ridiculous. And oh, by the way, you can't see this document. Only the chairman can see it. We can then. No one else is allowed to. But we're going to indict the former president, the guy leading in the polls by the Justice Department of his opponent. Like, what is going on?
And it looks
here?
like, Mr. Chairman, they're going to attack on process. In other words, let me just lay this out and then get your input on this. Hillary Clinton had over 30,000 emails, really 60,000, 30,000 emails. There was classified information on her private server. Her lawyers decided what emails were and were not relevant. Her lawyers permanently deleted thousands and thousands of emails. They did not go through the arduous task of actually reading the emails. They looked at headers. That's how they made a determination on what would be reviewed and turned over and what would not be. Her staff used hammers to destroy her prior cell phones. And, of course, when she was interviewed for just a few hours where the lawyers who were in question were representing her at the event. She was not under oath. Then you look at Donald Trump. They take more than one of his lawyers. They go to an Obama judge on her last day as the chief judge. Last day. She orders a crime fraud exception for his main lawyer to be interviewed by the grand jury and the prosecutor, turning over notes and information, that is, discussions with his own client. He's done this with others as well. Then they get, earlier they get a warrant. They raid his home with a SWAT team because they say they've had enough. They've run out of time. I want to ask you a question. First of all, are you sick and tired of Bill Barr and people like that going on TV, basically encouraging the Department of Justice to indict the former president? And secondly, how is it that Hillary Clinton wasn't in an orange jumpsuit? She was Secretary of State. We're talking about a former president of the United States. How do you view all this?
No, I'm sick and tired of it, like the American people are, the double standard, the one set of rules for us regular folk, another set if you're part of the elite connected class here in D.C. I will tell you this, too, about Secretary Clinton. When she was under oath in front of the Benghazi committee, in my second round of questions, I remember, I asked her, I said, Secretary Clinton, 60,000 emails. We don't want to see the ones about your kid's wedding. We don't want to see the ones about the personal stuff. That's this is America. We don't want that. But we don't necessarily trust that you and your lawyers will decide what's work-related, what's personal. So how about we do it this way? How about we take a retired federal judge? We can debate and we can figure out who. We can work together who that's going to be. Let's take a retired federal judge and let them be the arbiter. Let them decide this is personal. You shouldn't be able to see this committee. This is work-related. You should be able to see this. How about we do it that way? And, of course, they said no. No, they couldn't do it. Not only that's what we offer. Now, think about that with the way they've treated Trump compared to that. I offered her that from the committee. I said, why don't you take that deal? No. We'll decide. Our lawyers will decide. We'll do just what you described, Mark. That's Republicans being reasonable and being fair. They wouldn't even take that deal. But with President Trump, think how they've treated him. That's what people are so sick of. And now that they're going to indict the guy leading in every single poll after what they've done to him for 8 years, spied on his campaign, spied on 4 people, Manafort, Papadopoulos, Carter Page, and I'm forgetting the fourth, 4 people in the campaign. Oh, Mike Flynn, 4 people they spied on his campaign. Then Mueller does the investigation. Mueller comes the day Mueller testifies in front of our committee and says no collusion, no conspiracy. What do? The very next day, they pick up on a phone call. The very next day, July 24th, I think it was, 2019, the very next day they say, we're going to get him on this phone call he had with Zelensky. And some anonymous source with no firsthand knowledge who worked for Joe Biden is the basis of an impeachment. And it just keeps going, and they raid his home, as you talk about, and now they're going to, it never ends. It never ends. And that's what drives everyone crazy.
Well, it's a huge problem in this country. It's a very big, big problem. And I would just say to the Republicans who are running against Trump, I get this question, will this help or hurt Trump? It's going to help Trump because people do not like the fact that somebody who's an innocent man is turned into the all-time criminal of the United States. We know they've gone after his taxes. They've gone after his companies. We know they've gone after his kids. We know they bring charges of sexual abuse. Very strange. He wasn't found guilty of rape. That was the allegation. And one lawyer said to me, gee, you should have handled this case. How are you found guilty of a lesser offense? It's a civil case. It's not a lesser included offense. It's a criminal case. That's very criminal. And then you go on. You go on with the phony impeachments, and then you go on with this criminal investigation and January 6th criminal investigation. And then you see how the Department of Justice, the same department, as you've pointed out many, many times, abuses now whistleblowers at the FBI, what they've done to those people. And you see with the parents and the pro-lifers and all the rest, and here's Trump. We don't have a justice system, Mr. Chairman. We don't have one anymore.
No, and we got to fix that. And the way you fix it, you do legislation, you look at the appropriation process, you use all the tools that we have to try to fix it. But in the end, you ultimately you got to have an attorney general who's going to, follow the rule of law and administer the rule of law in an equal, fair fashion. Americans instinctively get fairness. That's why the country, you're right. If this happens to President Trump, I think his numbers go up even more because Americans fundamentally understand fairness. From the time you're a kid, if your brother gets 2 cookies and you get 1, you know it's not fair. Like, it's built in us. It's the way God made us. And Americans get it. So they just get it, and they know what's going on here is not fair. And the examples just can look at Durham's report. There was intelligence, credible intelligence that comes into our government in the summer of 2016 that says the whole Trump-Russia stuff, the whole dossier stuff, it was all coming from the Clinton campaign. They put that in a memo. They send that memo to Comey and Strzok. Comey and Strzok do not share that with the guys doing the Crossfire Hurricane, the agents on the case. And when Durham interviewed one of these agents, he showed him the memo. The guy read the memo. After he reads the memo, this is in Durham's report, page 88 of the report. He reads the memo. He becomes visibly upset, emotional, has to get up, walk out of the room, comes back in, and basically says it is BS that they didn't share that information with us. This could have changed how we handled this whole case. That's what's going on, and Americans understand that is wrong. That is not fair.
Mm-hmm. And they appointed this special counsel because he's known to be a reckless rogue. He was with the former governor of Virginia, where the Supreme Court unanimously overturned the verdict. He was with even John Edwards, where the jury wouldn't give him what he wanted. He was the former head of the Public Integrity Section when the IRS was going after the Tea Party, and I was told he was pushing that agenda too.
He was
a
looking
very
to
bad guy.
People. Yes. Holy cow.
All right, my friend.
Thinking about
Keep up the good work.
We want you too, brother. Thanks for all you do.